While the road trip had its ups and downs, it finished on a high note. A 3-game sweep over the Cubs. Now the Reds return home, where they're 12-4. And they take on the NL East leading Atlanta Braves. It's next on Fox Sports Ohio. Very lovely night for baseball in downtown Cincinnati. We welcome you to Great American Ballpark. After a 10-game road trip, the Reds are finally back on the home front, and this is a big league series kicking off here tonight. The Reds now at 4 games over the 500 mark, trailing only St. Louis in the Central. And meanwhile, for the Braves, they're still riding the tide of that 12-1 start to the year. 6 games over 500, sitting atop the National League East. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh. I'm Tom Brenneman. Great to have you with us for Reds baseball here on Fox Sports Ohio. Chris, let's get right at it. When the Reds and the Braves get together, pitching is normally the name of the game.
There's no question about it. You're going to see some awfully good pitching in this series. Paul Maholm, left-hander, we've seen him plenty of times. He's had 20 career starts against the Reds. He'll face veteran Bronson Arroyo, Chris Medlin against Homer Bailey, a couple of hard throwers tomorrow, and then Mike Minor and Mike Leake will go at it on the 3rd game. That's a day game on Wednesday. And I got to tell you, when you match these two teams up, you're talking about how the Reds hit left-handed pitching. So far, they've hit them very well. Almost a .280 batting average, 4th in the league. But you're also talking about these two teams hitting home runs. They like to hit home runs. The offenses are either very hot or very cold based on whether they play long ball or not. So you're going to see good pitching and maybe some guys going yard, too.
Well, you think about guys going yard, and no one has done it with more frequency in Major League Baseball than one of the newest Braves, Justin Upton. 12 of them.
You can count that. He was the National League Player of the Month. Justin Upton was. He was a newcomer to the Braves. They united him with his brother, BJ, and they're thinking big things for the Upton brothers this year. So far, Justin has taken the main light because this guy is hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He's very aggressive early in the count. He's a guy that normally chases a lot of breaking balls, but I got to tell you, he's so aggressive now early in the count that he's not even getting to the breaking ball count. This guy's up there ready to swing the bat, so look out if you're on the mound for the Reds.
Tell you who else is really swinging the bat right now. That's Joey Votto. He only took 3 walks on the last road trip because he is finally swinging some big lumber. We'll talk about that when we return.
presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Few clouds in the skies above. What about the forecast for later? Our weather is brought to you by Eric Dieter's attorney at law. And here's our main man, Tim Hedrick.
The boys are back in town. Good to see them back. They haven't lost a home series yet. Dusty Baker going for win number 1,600. Now that's getting it done. Slight chance of a spotty shower during the game, but I think they play ball. 61st pitch, halfway home, 59. Heading for home, about 58. The oblique's hurting, but I'll give it my best. All right, here we go. Yeah, I got enough. Enjoy the game on Fox Sports Ohio.
Nothing wrong with a swing right now from this man, Joey Votto.
Well, he took so many walks at the very beginning of the year that people were beginning to yelp a little bit about Joey Votto, saying, hey, why don't you drive the ball a little bit? Why don't you get some base hits? Well, he wasn't being pitched to. He is being pitched to right now, and you see what he does to opposing pitchers when they throw the ball in the zone. He's raised his batting average from .295 to a much more Votto-like .322.
All right, Votto and the Reds set to tee it up with the Braves. Playoff teams from a season ago. And game 1 of 3 is next on Fox Sports Ohio. Sports Ohio brought to you by the Ford F-Series trucks, the best-selling truck in America, 36 straight years. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Book your stay at CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. Skyline of downtown Cincinnati, right into the entrance at Great American Ballpark. The Reds and the Atlanta Braves tonight. Freddie Gonzalez in his 3rd year since taking over for the future Hall of Famer Bobby Cox. They reached the playoffs, winning 94 games a season ago, and here's his lineup tonight. B.J. Upton in center field, Chris Johnson at third, Justin Upton in right, Freddie Freeman the first baseman, Evan Gattis, a great story out in left field, he's a rookie, and Brian McCann, his first game since coming back from shoulder surgery last October. Dan Uggla at second base. Andrelton Simmons is a shortstop, and left-hander Paul Maholm on the mound, starting at 4. The Reds 2 and 3 right-hander could be a lot better than that with a few runs as Bronson Arroyo.
You got a matchup tonight of a couple of pitchers that have pitched against their opposing teams many times in the past, and for Bronson Arroyo, This is game number 17 against the Braves. He's 9-7 overall, Arroyo is, and he's thrown the ball pretty well this year. There are games that Arroyo has pitched that he should have deserved a win where he did not get wins. Coming off an outing his last time, 7 innings of 2-run baseball against the St. Louis Cardinals. He was hung with the loss in that ball game. How about that? A first pitch curveball for Bronson Arroyo. He's normally a guy that throws a first pitch dead fish up there.
So we're underway here tonight at Great American Ballpark. B.J. Upton signed the richest contract in the history of the Atlanta Braves organization during the offseason. And it has been a dreadful start. A 154 batter with 5 runs batted in, and he is gone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night on 3 straight breaking balls from Bronson Arroyo. So the defense behind him brought to you by your Ford dealers. Derek Robinson, a rare start out at left. Chu in center. Jay Bruce in right. Frazier and Votto on the corners. Cozart and Phillips up the middle. And Devin Mesoraco hanging his signs for Arroyo. Now Chris Johnson. Of course, Chipper Jones retired during the offseason. He'll retire his number during this summer. They wondered how it would play out at third base. They brought in Johnson from Arizona, who had his best season as a major leaguer last year. He's been sharing time with the former Red Juan Francisco, and so far, real good down at third for the Braves. Both have played quite well. 1-2 to Johnson. You played with his kid's dad growing up.
Well, you're right. His name is Rob Johnson. Good guy. He was a big-time home run hitter in the minor leagues. His dad was, and a long-time coach in the minor leagues, I think, for the Minnesota Twins. But this young guy, if you can get the ball in on him, you'll be able to handle him. He's got plenty of power and a big sweet spot of that bat. He likes that ball out over the plate.
See only Carlos Gomez of Milwaukee and Troy Tulowitzki have swung the bat better from a batting average standpoint, and a .337 of Chris Johnson.
That's a pitch right there that everybody who faces Bronson Arroyo knows he's going to throw you if you're a right-handed hitter. The key, if you're going to have any success off Arroyo, is not to chase the one that is just a few inches off the dish.
And there's a walk after he got ahead of Johnson.
Well, that looks like a different Chris Johnson. The one we saw in Houston, he was chasing a lot of those pitches, very aggressive at the plate. You know, it's a good game plan if you can get it together to try to wait out Arroyo. He's got good control. He can throw strikes, but he'll nibble around the corners if you swing it too much.
So now to be Justin Upton. Spent his entire major league career coming up 20 years young with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He and his brother B.J. both #1 picks. B.J. by the Rays and Justin by Arizona. And an April to remember indeed. Won the National League's Player of the Month award for April in 26 games. Clubbed his way to the top of Major League Baseball's home run leaderboard, 12 of them. Also led the National League in runs scored, 8th in RBIs. Slow breaking ball. That's something you brought up just a moment ago, up to not seeing quite as many fastballs as he did through the first month.
You know what you'll see out of Bronson Arroyo, though, is anything from about 62 miles an hour, maybe up to 90 miles an hour. I mean, he spreads his pitches velocity-wise as well as anybody in baseball.
Well, he's got that breaking ball working early so far tonight.
It's an important pitch for him. But what he has to have with that pitch is command of that two-seam fastball, just to be able to let those right-handed hitters know he can come inside underneath their knuckles.
1-2 on Upton, and it's popped up. Shallow right. Bruce, a long run, not gonna get it. A little dinker down the right field line by Upton, and the Braves have him on the corners after the walk to Johnson. Well,
they're saying in the Braves dugout right there, he hit it like he threw it. Just a little chip shot down the right field line coming off the bat of a right-hander. That's going to spin away from Jay Bruce. He'll go down to barehanded, but not until Chris Johnson can get over there to third base. So an excuse me base hit. Arroyo needs a double play.
Left-handed batting first baseman Freddie Freeman just came back off the disabled list near the end of April after straining his right oblique, an injury which apparently going all the way back to spring training. Ball one high. Freeman set career home highs in home runs last year. 23 of them, knocked in 94 runs in just his second year in the big leagues, and that one hooked into right. And just like that, a walk in two singles, and the Braves have a 1-0 lead.
Now, didn't get a lot of it, did Freddie Freeman, but he got it on the hands a little bit. This is a big, strong guy. And you can see the location of that pitch just about right down the center of the plate, waist high. Even if you get jammed at that spot, you're going to get enough of it to get it into the outfield.
So now Evan Gattis, a 26-year-old rookie, earned his way onto this Braves team, having a monster spring training. He can catch. He's a catcher by trade. He can play first base. And tonight makes his first start of the year out in left field. 7 home runs and 18 runs batted in for Evan Gattis. Before this season, Gattis had never played above Double-A. Split time last year between Single-A and Double-A Mississippi. 0-2 to Gattis.
You don't see too many pitchers like Bronson Arroyo down in Double-A, and that's one reason why you figure that he's going to have to adjust to that real slow stuff. He's got a very quick bat. You can see he's plenty strong. Turned a 96-mile-an-hour fastball around off Steven Strasburg earlier this year.
Talked about Upton winning the Player of the Month. Gattis was the National League's Rookie of the Month. But a steady diet of the breaking balls there, and a 3-pitch strikeout. 2 are out in the inning.
You know, you can just see Arroyo and the difference that a hitter has when he has to face him right-handed versus left-handed. And all throughout Bronson's career, he's been much better against right-handers, and it's even more pronounced than ever. You get a young kid that hasn't really negotiated that breaking ball, and that's what he makes you look like.
Nice round of applause from the crowd, knowing tonight marks a return of Brian McCann. Went to the All-Star game in each of his first 5 years in the major leagues before finally injuring his shoulder last year. And things spiraled quickly to a point where it was by far the worst season McCann has had since coming to the major leagues. Had surgery in October, came off rehab 2 days ago, and now with the big league club for the first time this year tonight.
But when McCann is being his normal self, he's the number 3 hitter in this Braves lineup. There's no question about that. A left-handed hitter that combines power and good average. He's a 6-time All-Star, 5-time Silver Slugger Award winner. He's been MVP of the National League a few years ago. I mean, the guy can do it all. Captain of the ball club. You would think now that Chipper Jones is not around that it would fall squarely on his shoulders.
McCann has been by far and away the most productive offensive catcher in all of baseball over the last 6 years. 3-1.
Well, that's a very important pitch right there for Bronson Arroyo. We talked a lot about watching Matt Latos and Sam LeCure throw that front door fastball. That's a pitch that Arroyo has essentially reinvented himself with.
3-2. This is a guy that Arroyo and all of the Reds have had a hard time dealing with. Look at those numbers for McCann against Arroyo. 9 hits, 4 of the 9 home runs.
You know, McCann's one of those guys that when he grips the bat, his top hand, he really grips it on the end of his fingers almost. Some guys bury it in their palm. He grips it up there so he can throw that top hand.
Ball 4. So they are loaded for the second baseman, Dan Uggla. And Devin Mesoraco going to come out and visit with Arroyo. So far, the biggest at bat in this inning, you look back on it, was a walk to Johnson.
Yeah.
Arroyo was ahead of him. I mean, the Upton thing's just a little, excuse me, check swing down the line. Obviously, a very important hit, getting the runner from first to third. But the single by Freeman would not advance Upton first to third. But that walk in front of those 2 singles right now, the difference. Now they're loaded for Uggla. And it's strike 1. Mark Wegner calls the balls and strikes tonight. Laz Diaz at first, Tim Timmons at second, and Mike Winters, the umpire, down at third.
Well, a hitter like Uggla, you call him a up, out, and over hitter. He likes it up, out over plate. And if you get it out there far enough, you make it over the fence. Big, strong guy, as you can see, but he's really struggling from a batting average standpoint. In fact, he swings quite a bit like Gaddis does. Same type of swing. And the same approach that Arroyo and Mesoraco are going to take with him.
The Braves have him loaded. Already leading 1-0 with 2 men out. Count of 1 ball and 2 strikes on Dan Uggla. Arroyo ready, Uggla ready, and here it comes. And that strike 3 called, a fastball to win the inning. The Reds could give up 2 hits and a run, and the Reds will come to bat against Mahalam when we return. For 1,600, he's tied with his longtime manager Tommy Lasorda at 1,599. Chu, Cozart, Votto to start it. Phillips, Bruce, and Frazier in the middle. Mesoraco, Derek Robinson in left field, and Bronson Arroyo the latter third. Paul Mahalam seemed like, Chris, his career might be heading maybe not down the track he wanted it to go, but since landing in Atlanta, my oh my, how he's righted the ship.
Well, you're right about that, and really for Paul Mahalam, and the Reds have seen him an awful lot. He's pitched 20 games against the Reds. He's always been a sinker slider pitcher with a decent changeup, but what he's been able to do this year is really have great control of his off-speed pitches. That makes his fastball so much better. He's pitching ahead in the zone. He's pitching in a bigger ballpark down in Atlanta where the ball doesn't carry, and pitching right now with a whole lot of confidence.
So here's Chu. Looked like he was going into a first slump wearing a Reds uniform. Well, he has whacked his way right out of that. Average at .331, 5 home runs, 13 knocked in, 9 doubles. Boy, what a start he has had wearing a Reds uniform. 1-1 to Shin-Soo Choo. There are a number of young people here tonight. I did not see a note as to what group it might be with, but there are a number of I'm guessing Korean students, they appear to be in a large group here tonight. Brought all kinds of Korean flag. We've seen that, but they also have a lot of posters they've made of Chu coming to the ballpark here tonight. Breaking ball away, 2-2 the count. Of course, you talk to people who know of the situation, and Chu is just unbelievably popular in South Korea. By far the greatest player in the history of Major League Baseball from that country, and I mean by a landslide. There have been great Japanese players, we know all about that, from all over Latin America, but as it pertains to the country of South Korea, he is by far the greatest player that has ever come to Major League Baseball. Three and 2 to Chu. And there's strike 3, and he knew it. Braves defensively, presented by your Ford dealers. We talked about Gaddis getting the nod out in left field. Upton in center. His brother Justin in right. Freeman, Uggla, Simmons, Johnson. First to third, and Brian McCann back behind the plate. Braves leading 1-0. Here's Zach Kozar. Strike 1. Why the turnaround from Mahala?
Well, I think he just found control of his breaking ball, and I think that's the biggest thing for him. I mean, he throws a curveball, he throws a changeup. You see the lifetime records he has against the Reds. But if you can't get those secondary pitches over, they're not going to chase those fastballs that you just tease off the edge of the plate. And that's what he does. I mean, he's a teaser type pitcher. He gets a lot of ground balls. He's up to about 67% of his outs via the ground ball. So when you have that, you've got to have some other things besides a sinking fastball. But you watch a pitch, everything goes down. What he's trying to get you to do is hit the top half of the baseball.
I mean, really, the turnaround began right around the All-Star break last season. His ERA since then, 7th lowest among all National League starters, and the first number begins with a 2.
Yeah, he started the season last year, as you remember, with the Chicago Cubs. And a little later in the year, he went over and was traded to the Atlanta Braves, and maybe that's about the time he began to switch things around. Maybe just getting out of Wrigley Field, getting away from a team that was really struggling, onto a ball club that had something to play for.
Ozart looks at strike 3. 2 out.
Kind of like we called it in the opening, Tom, you're going to see in this pitching matchup tonight and probably throughout the rest of the week a lot of strikeouts and guys that are painting the corners tonight. Bronson Arroyo did it to get out of the inning when he struck out Dan Uggla on a called strike 3. And Paul Maholm does it right here.
Now Joey Votto, .322 batting average, 4 home runs, 12 runs batted in. Show you the numbers on the road trip for Votto. 14 out of 36. That's a .389 batting average. He had 5 doubles. Scored 7 times and only walked 3 times. In the air and out of play. 1-1 to Votto. Breaking ball off the outside corner to get ahead 2-1.
You know, when you size up Paul Maholm and the Reds lineup, Joey Votto and Jay Bruce, they may not want to say it to the rest of the team, but if you see the numbers, you're going to realize that they would really hope that the right-handers take over against Maholm, because he has really struggled. Votto, there aren't too many pitchers around that have held Joey Votto down like this, and Jay Bruce even worse. He's 2 for 15 and a 133 batting average. So the lefties in this lineup have struggled before. That gives a pitcher like Maholm a lot of confidence.
Full count to Votto. One of the righties in this lineup waits in the on-deck circle. Brandon Phillips hoping for a chance here in the first inning. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 down and nobody on. Braves leading 1-0, and that one served into short left field, and Gaddis is there to end the inning. 1, 2, 3 go the Reds. We go to inning number 2, and Atlanta leads by a run. The new Ohio sports buzz. 19,000 runners on the streets of Cincinnati yesterday. You can chat, of course, with Hal McCoy, the Hall of Famer, right now at Game Connect, and get complete coverage of all today's action involving Ohio sports. Brought to you by 1-800-SAFE-AUTO. Drive safe, spend less. Mostly cloudy, somewhat on the chilly side here in downtown Cincinnati. Opening game of a 6-game homestand, and it begins with the first of 3 against the NL East leading Braves. Atlanta with a run in the first inning on a single by Freddie Freeman to drive in Chris Johnson. Andrelton Simmons, young shortstop, hits one a mile down the left field line. That is gone. 2-0 Braves in front.
I was just about to say, this young man's got a lot of pop if he gets his pitch, and boy, Arroyo just leaves it right in the sweet spot of that strike zone. That ball meant to be breaking down and away from Simmons, make him reach for it, and he didn't have to reach very far at all.
So the number 8 hitter clubs his 3rd home run of the year. 2-0 Braves, and here's Maholm. 2 out of 13 is a batter. Told you the Braves won 94 games a year ago. They had the 4th best record in all of Major League Baseball. The problem for them, of course, they played inside the same division as the team who won the most games in Major League Baseball last year, the Washington Nationals. All that on the heels, you may remember, of that titanic collapse by the Atlanta Braves in 2011, where in late August they had nearly a double-digit lead in the wild card race against the Cardinals, who caught them and passed them the final day of the year. Freddie Gonzalez has done a nice job. Not easy to replace a guy who accomplished so much as did his predecessor and really his mentor, Bobby Cox. Gonzalez was on his staff for a number of years in Atlanta. And Phillips will flip to Votto for the first out here in the 2nd inning.
So did he. Same thing.
So now B.J. Upton. He struck out on 3 pitches leading off the game against Arroyo. Upton had 2 hits in the Braves game on Friday night. May not sound like a big deal, but in the 12 games prior, Upton had managed a grand total of 4 hits and 43 at-bats, including 18 strikeouts. And he basically went to their hitting coach, Greg Walker, and said, look, we got to get me back to being the hitter I used to be. Swung on and fouled back out of play. Spent his entire career with Tampa Bay. Last year he had a career high 28 home runs, but he also only hit .246, and he struck out a career high 169 times.
Well, hitting in the 240 is really nothing new for him. You go back to 2009 when he was with Tampa Bay, still 241. 2010 he hit 237, 243. So I mean, what you're getting with Upton, you know full well what you're getting. You're getting a guy that can hit some home runs, has amazing talent, and possibly some tremendous upside. But he's not been able to figure it out from a batting average standpoint. He certainly has not been able to figure out Bronson Arroyo.
Breaking ball in there, strike to Johnson, who drew a 1-out walk in the 1st inning and scored the Braves' first run of the night. They lead 2-0. We're in the 2nd inning. I mean, you knew his dad before Chris was even born, right?
You're right. Used to exchange Christmas cards with Rob and his wife.
Well, I mean, you know, you guys have spent a lot of time together being on the same team in the minor leagues.
He's a character. Now,
Still
Chris, by contrast, is no, I haven't heard from him in a while.
Okay.
Sent him a Christmas card one year. Maybe he moved. Maybe he misinterpreted my card. You know, sometimes you send a card.
I know.
Try to be funny, and
yeah. There's strike 3.
He didn't think that was very funny either.
A home run by Simmons has given Atlanta a 2-0 lead. That's pretty cool what they put on the bases these days, isn't it? My son asked me the other day, they do that for every game, Dad? And they do.
I didn't know they did that. They used to have just a name on there. That'd be maybe our trivia question someday.
Not bad. Well, you know the drill. If a Red hits a home run off the Toyota sign during our game tonight, Terry York of Mainville, Ohio, will win the beautiful new Tundra right there. Register for your chance to win at an upcoming game by visiting your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. All right, Reds with work to do. Braves have come to bat twice tonight and have scored single runs in each of the first 2 innings. So it'll be Brandon Phillips, Jay Bruce, Todd Frazier against left-hander Paul Maholm. Reds retired in order in the opening inning. Maholm, Fanning, Chu, and Cozart looking before getting Votto on a fly ball to the left fielder Gaddis. Brandon at 281, 27 runs batted in. Simmons plants. Perfect throw.
Now, they were talking about this young man's defense from the very beginning of spring training on. They thought that it would be a battle between Simmons and Tyler Pasternicki to nail down that shortstop job. And Chipper Jones made a comment about Simmons saying, you know, here's a kid that really has never played above Double-A ball, and everybody in camp is calling him major league ready defensively. That's saying something. And he shows you a play right here that he makes look very easy. That was not that easy, folks. Big kid, a lot of range, good arm. Brandon Phillips used to robbing people, not that used to being robbed himself.
Ball one to Jay Bruce, 254 batter, 1 home run, 15 runs batted in. That's a big slow breaking ball that Maholm has added to his repertoire this season. He flipped that one up there at 63 miles per hour.
Yeah, you got to battle with a couple of pitchers that can slow it down with anybody.
Then you come right back at 86. Got to look like it's 96. And Bruce gone swinging. 3 of them early on tonight for Paul Maholm.
And he showed him just about everything he had. There's the slider right there at 78. He showed an early curveball at 63. Then he threw an 86-mile-an-hour sinking fastball. Bruce is still trying to figure out which one he wants to hit.
Tonight we have 4 of the top 9 batters in the National League that have struck out with the most frequency. Bruce leads the league 47. Uggla 41. B.J. Upton now with 38. And Justin Upton with 34. In fact, really, that is a story in many ways on both of these teams. They rank number 1 and number 3 among all National League clubs in striking out so far this year.
Well, it really brings up a topic of debate among those that watch baseball. I mean, nowadays you see fewer and fewer hitters shorten up with 2 strikes. Frazier 3-0 swinging right there with 2 outs.
Reds gone in order, and they trail as we go to the 3rd, 2-0. Elk and Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. So much has been made about the difference between the Cincinnati Reds team at home and the Reds on the road. Home, 6 more wins in the same number of games. Remember now, they played 16 here, 16 away. 40 points better on the batting average. Plus 10 in home runs. Plus 27 in runs. And in a ballpark known as a hitter's park, they have been by far better pitching here than they have on the road. Now the Reds at least are able to look at their road record at 6 up and 10 down, and while they're not happy about it, obviously it helped tremendously after the 3-game series sweep at Wrigley, which ended yesterday. You were 3-10 on the road before that series began. 3, 4, and 5 in the Atlanta batting order, already with a 2-0 lead over Bronson Arroyo. A breaking ball in there, strike to Justin Upton.
I think the Dusty Baker, though, looks at this series as a little bit bigger test than that of the Chicago Cubs. Not to take anything away from any major league team, because on a given day or a given series, somebody can rise up and beat even the best. But he knows that this Atlanta team, first in the National League East, they've got a whole lot of offense down here. They're going to bring terrific bullpen work at you, because if the Braves do get the lead and they can keep that lead into the late innings, they rarely give it up.
Yeah, they had a rare off night Friday night, but those happen few and far between. Broken bat pop up, and this one run down by Robinson. So the leadoff man retired here in the Atlanta third, and that'll bring up Freddie Freeman. He had a bloop single into right field that knocked in the Braves' first run in the opening inning. Of course, the Braves right now without Jason Hayward, their regular right fielder. He underwent emergency appendectomy surgery on the 22nd of April. Did nothing for 10 days after the surgery, and he is now with the Braves here in Cincinnati, where he'll continue to work out. He's doing everything now, hitting, running, BP before the game tonight. And by the end of this 10-game road trip, they'll send him out to begin a rehab assignment and hopefully have him back in less than 2 weeks. That is on the strike, fair ball. Freeman, a perfect 2 for 2 tonight. Boy, he's a good-looking young hitter.
Well, he didn't hit the ball hard the first time up, but he looked good at the plate anyway, and he just got jammed a little bit on a slider or a cutter. That time he does hit the ball hard right down the line. You say this one kicks up some chalk. But you can see where Arroyo's missing now. His fastball coming back over the plate a little bit too much. Just one of those nights for Bronson where he just has not yet found that good release point on all of his pitches.
Now Evan Gattis, he struck out. Saw 3 breaking balls in his first at bat. Now he's up there with a runner at second and 1 out here in the Atlanta third inning.
Really unconventional stance right here for Gattis. Wide open, really bent leg down there. I mean, his stance is so far wide apart. He's about 6 feet 4 inches tall. Big guy, goes about 240 pounds. 1 foot away on the back of the box, and the other foot almost in the front of the box. You don't see too many wide stances like that. No batting gloves. Look out.
One got a piece of Arroyo. Really wasn't hit all that hard, and Arroyo just looks into the dugout, waves him off, says nothing doing. Won't even come out. 2 out.
Well, you're only about 55 feet away. It seems like it's hit harder than it really may appear from up here. The ball got on him fairly quickly. He did slow it down for Brandon Phillips. Phillips would have had it anyway. When a big guy swings the bat like that and it's coming right back at you, your first instinct is to duck.
McCann on the ground right at Votto, and the Braves will strand Freeman at third base. Reds come to bat looking for their first base runner, trailing 2-0. value this season, the Kroger meal deal. So just to check concession stands throughout the ballpark. It includes a hot dog, a bag of Lay's chips, 16-ounce Coke, and during this homestand, a Quaker Chewy granola bar. Make sure you get your Kroger meal deal when you come down to the ballpark for $9. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Braves. No runs, no base runners so far for the Reds. Latter third in the order against Paul Maholm. It'll start with Devin Mesoraco, Derek Robinson, and then Bronson Arroyo. Oh, and 1 to Devin Mesoraco. Showed you the numbers a little bit earlier. The Reds had 4 games over 500, which matches their high water mark so far of this year. They begin play 2.5 behind the red-hot St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals just buried Milwaukee over the weekend. They have won 6 straight games. 0-2 on Mesoraco.
Well, Devin Mesoraco, I think, has benefited a lot of ways by having the opportunity to catch on an everyday basis. One, that he's seeing more left-handed pitchers than he would with Ryan Hanigan in there. And so far, he is doing quite well, batting average over 500.
One and 2 to Devin. 3 against these Atlanta Braves, and then we mentioned Milwaukee. The Brewers have lost 5 straight. They'll be here starting Friday night. Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And now the 1-2 to Mesoraco. And that bounces up there as well to even things up. Mesoraco got behind 0-2, and now the count has gone full. Tapper to Simmons. 7 straight retired by Maholm to begin the game. Tonight, the only shaky night as far as a forecast is concerned. Looking ahead to the next 4 or 5 days. So if you're debating coming on down tomorrow night or Wednesday afternoon, we'd love to have you. 7:10 tomorrow night, and then a 12:35 start to wrap up this 3-game set on Wednesday. Here's Derek Robinson. Strike 1. Tonight, the 4th major league start for Derek Robinson since he was brought up to replace Ryan Ludwig on the disabled list 2 days after opening day. He does have a hit in the other 3 games in which he has started. 1 of 3 against St. Louis, 1 of 3 against Philly, and 1 of 3 again against the Cardinals on the just completed road trip. And might have a hit his first time up tonight. He does. Oh, Upton very lucky he was able to stick that glove out there and snatch that thing before it rolled to the wall. And as shallow as Upton was in right field, if that ball goes to the wall, it's a for sure triple.
At least for Derek Robinson, he is an awfully fast runner. His ball comes off his bat and it's got a lot of spin on it. Upton, if you see at the very end of this play, he's just going to reach out with that left hand and just barely grab that glove. Or grab the ball with his glove. If that ball is bouncing hard towards the line.
Now Arroyo asked to bunt and fouls it away. Arroyo has not been nearly as productive when asked to put down the bunt this year as he's been for most of his major league career. Two sacrifices so far on the season for Arroyo, and he's 0 for 11 as a batter. Now, just because Mahalam is a left-hander, some teams become a little bit reluctant to run against the lefties. What about this particular southpaw?
Well, since he's joined the Braves, he's not given up very many at all. He has given up 2 stolen bases this year.
Arroyo will get this one down, and with a speedy Robinson, McCann will play the first. 2 are out.
But for the most of the time since he's been traded over from the Chicago Cubs to the Braves, he gave up 1 last year, 2 thrown out. So he's been very good at shutting down the running game. And that's why you're going to play a sacrifice bunt right here. I mean, are you going to risk having Derek Robinson thrown out and then have Arroyo make the 3rd out of the inning? So you move him over and you hope that Shin-Soo Choo, who struck out the first time, can play off that high batting average of his.
Choo took a called 3rd strike on a 3-2 pitch his first time up. Breaking ball to begin this at bat, strike 1.
You notice the upper lip of Choo is a little bit puffy. That's happened yesterday in that game in Chicago when he and Brandon Phillips went after a fly ball that was kind of lost in the sun / wind.
Soft liner caught, and that'll end the inning.
He got the ball right off the upper lip.
Reds get their first hit. They trail 2-0.
Reds Live, the pregame edition. First look at the lineups. Everything you need to know to get you ready for a Reds game. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Jim Day with you, and let's give you a couple of updates on the injury front. First of all, Ryan Hannigan, as we told you on the road trip, progressing nicely. So nicely that he is leaving tomorrow morning to go on a rehab stint. He'll join the Louisville Bats in Lehigh Valley, so that's good news for Cincinnati. Also good news, Johnny Cueto before the game today, throwing on the side. As we told you on the road trip, he had a setback. They scratched him from a rehab start because he had soreness in his oblique. He went on the disabled list for a lat injury, but his oblique was the injury that he suffered in the playoffs last year. And he said it doesn't hurt when he throws. It only hurts when someone touches it, like when Dr. Timothy Krimchek was giving him an exam. But he looked free and clear throwing today, guys. No timetable on when he will make a rehab stint, but both good signs for Cincinnati.
Dan Uggla shoots one into right center field, and that ball stuck at the base of the wall in between the bottom of the padded area and the warning track, allowing Uggla to turn that into a 3-base hit. And that's the way the Atlanta 4th inning begins, with the Braves already in front by 2.
Uggla, who got really nothing but breaking balls and then got a fastball to strike him out looking in the first inning, gets a fastball on the first pitch, a little inside out action. It gets stuck underneath the pad. So really he turns a triple into what was a double. The Braves are on the verge of pushing another run across. This is where you need a strikeout right here. You got the pitcher in the on deck circle. So if you're Bronson Roy, you're taking it one batter at a time right here.
Simmons homered his only time up tonight.
Yeah, got a hanging breaking ball that he knocked right out of here.
Hit it down the left field line off the facing of a second deck. 1-1 on Simmons.
Reds will bring the infield in.
Arroyo case assigned with Mesoraco. Runner at third, nobody out, and now Arroyo back off the rubber. And we'll try it again. 1-1 to count. Breaking ball swung on and fouled back over the screen and out of play. So Arroyo now ahead of ball at 2 strikes. Try to come in with a fastball. They did so. It's popped up foul ground, and Votto will run out of room. It stays at 1-2 on Andrelton Simmons. Simmons a big star during the World Baseball Classic with the Netherlands team. He got some valuable playing time last year. Pasternicki got the first shot at the shortstop job early in the year. Didn't work out. Simmons came up. Talked about the battle going into spring training this year, and Simmons right now the man. And that's a danger of bringing the infield in. It doesn't take much to get it through there. And that routine 2-hopper that would have been a ground ball to third instead is a run scoring single, and Atlanta stretches the lead to 3.
Well, either way you're going to get the run in. If you play the infield back, chances are the shortstop would field this ball. I don't know even know if playing back, you know what, playing back, that's probably the ball of the third baseman, and if they didn't have a contact play on, maybe, just maybe, you wouldn't have had that run score. But as it turns out, nobody's able to get it, and it is the risk that you take. I still like playing the infield in that situation right there. You got a young hitter, a guy relatively inexperienced, facing a very veteran right-handed pitcher in Bronson Arroyo. Sometimes you hit it right at the fielder and it works for you, and other times he finds a hole.
Mahalam squares, and then they let him swing away, and he fouls it off. It's 0-2.
He's swinging away probably on his own, because Todd Frazier is just about breathing right down his neck. I mean, he was very, very close. I mean, Todd Frazier, when that pitch was being delivered to home plate, was about half as much closer to home plate as he is right now. And even with 2 strikes, he's not buying into the fact that Mahalam's going to swing away. Here he comes.
Mesoraco going to play to second. And a good throw, and they called him safe at second base.
I think they called Zach Cozart off the bag down there. And you're not going to get any argument from Dusty Baker. The throw was beginning to tail wide towards the first base side of second base. That ball had a lot on it from Mesoraco, but it was just tailing away from Cozart. Does he pull his foot?
That's an out.
He's out. Maybe he said he didn't have control of the baseball. I think that's a bad call. I think he dragged his right foot across the bag while he had the ball in the glove. Well, maybe not. You know what? I think he had a pretty good angle on it through the second base umpire, Tim Timmons. I think that foot was, the toe was just right above the bag.
So now the Braves with 1 in, 2 on, and nobody out. And it's taken low, a ball and a strike to B.J. Upton. 2 at bats, 2 strikeouts. One looking, the other swinging. Reds still wondering whether or not Freddie Gonzalez would consider asking Upton to bunt. He has been struggling so mightily. 2-1 now to Upton. They gave that error, throwing error, to Mesoraco. Two and 2 on Upton. You know, one of the things that Upton was quoted as saying when he went to their hitting coach, Greg Walker, to get his swing back to where it should be, he said, "I've become a pull-happy power hitter's swing," which is what that was right there in a 2-1 count. He's down on the end of that back 2-2 pitch. And a breaking ball he was lucky to get a piece of and fouls it out of play.
Tom, that's kind of the conversation that we began a little while ago, is that Upton's not the only one that doesn't make an adjustment with 2 strikes. You see that more and more now with a modern baseball player who gets paid for hitting home runs. Who cares what the batting average is? If you can hit 25 to 30 bombs, you're going to get a lot of money, whether you're hitting 240 or whether you're hitting 140.
And this guy's a case in point of that. He has gone on strikes for the 3rd time tonight.
Upton's got a quick bat. There's no question about that. But everything he does in the batter's box is very quick. Fast switch muscles versus a slow curveball right there. And actually, Arroyo hung that curveball.
6 strikeouts for Arroyo, 1 out of the inning.
You start to struggle, you speed up the clock, and that's exactly the wrong thing to do when you face a guy who spins those breaking balls up like Bronson does.
Well, now Johnson, who walked and scored in the 1st inning, struck out looking in the 2nd inning.
I think you were right on the button when you said the most important at bat there in the 1st inning was the walk to Chris Johnson. I mean, here you got Bronson Arroyo, who has more games started than he does have walks on the season. And he walks a guy with 1 out in the 1st inning. As it turns out, it comes around to score the 1st run of the game. I mean, he has been super stingy with the bases on balls.
2-1, 1 out. 0-1 the count on 3rd baseman Chris Johnson, and there's a fastball that catches the outside corner, and it's strike 2. Simmons with a run scoring single. Mahalam reached on a throwing error by the catcher Mesoraco, and now the pitch to Johnson is wide of the zone. 1-2.
How about that? An overhand outside fastball, then a sidearm outside fastball. He's got him set up for a sidearm breaking ball right here. Gonna come inside though.
Tied him up. I don't know how he got the bat on that ball. But he did to stay around.
Good Exmo shot of that. Look where that ball ends up hitting, way off the trademark and closer to the hands, courtesy of our Performance Honda Exmo camera. Like that shot.
Two on, one out. 1-2 to Johnson. And once more fouled away. He's gone back to back to back, Chris, with fastballs.
I'm a little surprised at that too. I got to figure that coming up, and I'm sure Chris Johnson's thinking the same thing in the back of his mind. Is he going to drop down here and throw me that little frisbee pitch and make me look foolish?
Well, he threw a breaking ball away. Not the sidearm variety. Different arm angle, and of course Arroyo throws from virtually nearly every conceivable arm angle. Big pitch right here to Johnson at 2-2. And that is staying fair. And then foul. Yeah, that was almost one of those plays where if Mesoraco picks it up in fair ground, if you touch it in fair ground, and did he? Nope, just gone foul.
He actually pulls his hand back as he sees that ball going foul, and as soon as it goes foul, that's when you want to snatch it up.
The point I was making is if you reach down there to get it and you want to get the out and it's in fair ground and you whiff, and then that ball rolls into foul ground, it is a fair ball. Not whiff if you actually make contact with the ball. So again a 2-2. And again fouled away by Johnson.
I'll tell you, Chris Johnson just looks like so much more a polished hitter. And maybe it's the fact that he's sandwiched in between, you know, some other hitters in this lineup that he did not have when he was with the Houston Astros. Now remember, he spent some time with Arizona last year, and he was part of that big 3-team trade.
And he did well when he went to Arizona.
He did well when he went to Arizona. But again, it's like Paul Maholm getting away from the Chicago Cubs. All of a sudden, he turned his season around. Chris Johnson got away from the Houston Astros, and he turned his season around, maybe his career around. But he's given Bronson Arroyo 2 really good at-bats.
This will be the 9th pitch in this at-bat. Johnson has already walked and struck out. 2 on, 1 out. There'll be a 10th pitch in this at-bat. And Arroyo's sort of shaking his head out there. He's made some good pitches in this at-bat to Johnson. Long look in by Arroyo. 10th pitch in the at-bat. Arroyo against Chris Johnson. And it's on the way. And a double play ball. Cozart, Phillips, and that's the way the inning comes to an end. So not a bad job after giving up the run. Braves had 2 on with nobody out. And don't score again. But even with this double play, Braves lead after 3.5. 3-0. Your Toyota dealer or visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by JTM Food Group, let's create great dishes together. Right along the banks. And look from the Ohio right into Great American Ballpark. All right, time to take a look at our AT&T trivia question. Now, this occurred in 1990, Chris, so you ought to be right up to speed on this. The Reds franchise wins record to start a season is 9. What Braves starter snapped that streak in the World Series championship season of 1990? That was 1 year before the Braves went from being one of the worst franchises in all of baseball to becoming one of the most dominant franchises in really the history of sports. And you can say, well, they only won 1 World Series. That's right. But what, 13 consecutive National League divisional championships, all those trips to the playoffs under Bobby Cox.
Don't tell me they did it with Moneyball.
Not to my knowledge.
Well, they did the same way the Oakland A's did do it, though, didn't they? Which was with a dominant pitching staff of starters. 3 of them probably Hall of Famers.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about John Smoltz, Tommy Glavine, of course, Greg Maddux.
Yep. Smoltz and Glavine were around when they got that thing turned around in 1991. Maddux had not come on board yet. He was a couple of years down the road.
Now, a lot of other guys sandwiched in there. Steve Avery for a few years. Tremendous pitcher. Our own Kent Merker.
Yep.
Tremendous years in Atlanta.
It was rare that the Braves would step out and make that big free agent acquisition. They had such a great farm system low those many years, but when they did step out, they rarely ever made a mistake on stepping out. They went and got guys like Maddux and made the trade for Freddie McGriff. And wow, what a run they had. 2-2 dribbler foul. Reds trailing 3-0 in the first of 3 with the Braves in town tonight. Of course, many forget when Bobby Cox, he had 1 go-round as the Atlanta Braves manager, left, went to Toronto, came back as the general manager with the Atlanta Braves, and then decided, was asked by the ownership at the time, Ted Turner, to go back on the field and become the manager. And really that is eventually what helped make Bobby Cox into a Hall of Fame manager when he's eligible to be up. Into left center field. Nice piece of hitting on a 3-2 pitch by Cozart, and he's aboard to begin the inning.
I'd like to see Zach Cozart begin to take care of the fastballs that Dusty Baker would expect him to get heading in front of Joey Votto. That's why he's staying in that number 2 spot, because the best way to be out of a slump is to get fastballs, and the one place you're going to definitely get some fastballs is in front of Votto. So he handles that low, and right there does Zach Cozart, and here is Votto.
Joey lined out to the left fielder Evan Gattis, his first time up. Chris brought it up earlier. Maybe some of you were not with us. The numbers are not pretty for Joey Votto and Jay Bruce. Pair of left-handed batters in their careers against this left-hander Mahalam, who they have seen a pile of times. All those years as a starter with the Pirates, and he was a guy that the Cubs would bring in relief to face guys like Votto and Bruce.
Mahalam's thinking right now, I'm 3-0 to Joey Votto. I've owned Joey Votto in my career. The guy on deck kills me. Has hit 4 home runs off of me lifetime. Don't want to face him with 2 on. Got to come back here and try to get Votto, and he paints the outside corner with a fastball.
3-1 to Joey, and a throw will send Kozar back to the bag. Reds trying to get something started here. Atlanta has scored in 3 of its first 4 at-bats tonight. Single runs in the first, the second, and the top of this 4th inning. Ball 4. First 2 aboard to begin the last of the 4th, and here comes a tying run. Brandon Phillips.
Well, it ends up in a base on balls, but let's take a look at this pitch by pitch. Paul Maholm and Joey Votto, and right away Maholm gets behind. He's trying to pitch him down and away, and he misses both times. He eventually goes 3-0 with a breaking ball up and in, and he paints the outside corner at 87 miles an hour, but it's not going to be good enough for Joey Votto, who's just off the plate with that pitch, and Votto earns a walk. Our Mazda pitch by pitch.
Brandon had a hit taken away on a nice play made by Simmons in the hole at short his first time up. Well, they've got the third baseman Johnson about a step and a half off that third base line. The shortstop trying to keep the runner Kozar a little closer at second base. If Phillips hits that ball this time where he hit it the last time, it probably gets through for a base hit. Outstanding numbers for Phillips with runners in scoring position. Hooked into left field, and a diving attempt, and Gaddis cannot get it. Kozar will score. Votto on to third. RBI double by Phillips. 3-1 ball game, and nobody out.
Brandon Phillips comes up big, as history said that he would, against Paul Maholm. He's done a lot of damage against Maholm in his career, and he's also done very well against the Atlanta Braves, his hometown team. Growing up in Stone Mountain, Georgia, gets a breaking ball down and in, hooks it down the right field line. There goes Gaddis. He's not a Gold Glove outfielder, but he makes a nice stop to keep that ball from going to the wall. That would really have been damaging had that ball gotten away from him.
Well, now the middle infield is conceding the run. This is where the Reds were so good in that 8th inning against Carlos Marmol when they only had the broken bat hit by Bruce. But they got a couple of fly balls with runners at second and third. One to score the runner from third and advance the other runner to third. Then another fly ball to score. And this ground ball will bring in a run and advance the runner down to third. So a good job by Bruce. Clearly he was looking for more, but he brings in the run. Phillips goes to third with only 1 out in the inning, and it's a 1-run ball game.
Well, in a situation like that, it's whether you convert something or not. A strikeout right here just takes the wind right out of your sails. And Jay Bruce rolls it over to the first baseman, but he's going to hustle down the line, and a momentary bobble by Freeman gives Bruce a chance maybe to make it close. He does make it close, but more importantly drives in the run.
Now the infield in, and here's Frazier. Tied him up inside. Frazier was one of those guys who delivered the sac fly RBI in that 8th inning we alluded to on Saturday against Marmol. And now a chance to tie the game. Infield in for Atlanta. One and one to Todd Frazier, and it's taken a strike on the outside corner. And now Maholm ahead in 1-2. Big at bat right here for Frazier and the Reds.
Now this is where Maholm likes to go down and in with a slider against a right-hander. Wants to land it on the back foot of Todd Frazier. That's your aim when you're a lefty out there.
You called it, and it's fouled away.
Well, Frazier's got a nice level swing, and he would prefer the ball away from him rather than inside. So you're pitching to your strength if you're Maholm, and you're also pitching with that same pitch to Todd Frazier's weakness.
Phillips a tying run at third base. Infield in with one out. We're in the bottom of the fourth inning. Came back with that pitch, and Frazier takes it. Strike three called.
You throw the slider down and in, you get him thinking about that slider down and in, then you throw a fastball that just has just enough comeback on it to catch that inside corner.
So now the infield backs up. And if the Reds are going to tie this game, it's going to have to be off the bat of Mesoraco. Or a wild one in the dirt by Mahalam. Ball one. Well, you brought it up earlier. Strikeouts, strikeouts, strikeouts. And you can say, well, right now, you know, the top three teams that are striking out, oh, they're over 500. But I guarantee if you went to their managers, Davey Johnson, Dusty Baker, we've heard from him. On the ground. And that's the end of the inning. So the Reds have a tying run at third and can't get him in. They scored twice. They're down a run. Price ticket. They get the option to buy 3 additional non-premium tickets at half price. What a deal. 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or visit reds.com/tickets. And by the way, for that deal, you must buy your tickets in advance of game day. All right, Chris, gave you a little while. In 1990, the Reds began the year 9-0. It's a franchise record. What Brave starter snapped that streak?
You know, the one guy that I remember that the Reds always had problems with for a long, long time, and in fact in Riverfront Stadium, I think at one time he was something like 13 or 14-0. I got to go with the left-hander Tom Glavine. I mean, he was tremendous at Riverfront Stadium.
You're on your game.
I got the pitch.
Oh boy, could he have? Could he have? All right, a one-run ball game as the Reds get a pair of them in the fourth inning against Mahalam. 3, 4, and 5 in a lineup against Arroyo, who's given up 1 run in 3 of the first 4 innings of the game. He needs an easy inning. Already up over 80 pitches in the game. Not for Arroyo that's a big deal, but we are only in the 5th. Upton, a little pop-up single down the right field line his first time up, which helped lead to Atlanta's first run of the game. He broke his bat on a pop fly to Derek Robinson in left field in the 3rd. Upton, so many ways, is so similar to Jay Bruce. Now, he has not done what Bruce has done since his rookie year, increasing his home run numbers, increasing his RBI numbers in subsequent years. There's a liner into right field, a base hit. But both of them came to the big leagues so young. They're both still just 25 years old. Expectations through the roof on both of them. But both are extremely inconsistent. And that's why a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks said it's time to move on.
I'm wondering maybe if part of that formula that wasn't working for Justin Upton in Arizona had something to do with the manager, Kirk Gibson. I'm not so sure that it wasn't similar to oil and water. Just the way Gibson treated Upton. Maybe Upton wanted to be treated differently. I've heard all sorts of things from different people around baseball that was just a mix that sometimes just didn't work. I mean, look at what happens this year. Not to blame it completely on Gibson, because he's a tremendous manager and he has a lot of respect from me and a lot of other people in baseball. But Upton's got 12 home runs this year. He had 17 all of last year, and he played a full season.
Runner goes, and it's in the air to left center. Robinson backing up. He'll get there. And Upton racing back to first base. One out. I mean, so far, real good in that 7-player deal with Arizona for the Braves. Upton and Johnson, and you see their numbers against the Reds. They gave up a mighty good player in Martin Prado. In the air, left center field. Robinson giving chase. No one's going to get to this one, and the Braves are going to score again. Evan Gattis, an RBI double, and Arroyo has given up a run in 4 of the 5 innings tonight.
Now, Evan Gattis, just a rookie, but you know, Bronson Arroyo had handled him very nicely the first couple of times up. That time simply made a mistake. You can see the way Gattis stands in the batter's box. That's the pitch right there he wants. He wants that ball middle in. He wants it up. And that's about where he got it.
Now McCann. Braves have 4 runs on 8 base hits. And a breaking ball in the outside corner, a strike. Oh, and 2. Reds have action in their bullpen. The man who has closed over the last couple of days in Chicago, J.J. Hoover, warming up here in the 5th inning tonight. On the ground, Avado, and McCann twice has grounded out to Joey. He's mixed in a walk, and it's his first game back off the disabled list. And now to bring Dan Uggla to the plate with a runner at third, a run home, and 2 out in the 5th. Strike 1 to Uggla, who looked at strike 3 ending the 1st inning, and then had a triple into right center field to lead off the 4th and scored a run. Slow breaking ball hit off the end of the bat, and Arroyo ahead of Uglett 0-2. Reds will have Robinson, Arroyo spot, and then Chu when they bat in the bottom of the 5th inning against Mahalam. Reds scoring twice in the 4th inning to get within a run, but Atlanta answers with a run of its own here in the top of the 5th. Well, joining J.J. Hoover down in the Reds bullpen is right-handed Alfredo Simon.
Been a while since we've seen him.
Well, where did that miss? Apparently outside. Was a big out for Arroyo, probably the final batter he faces tonight. And he gets strike 3 this time. But the Braves score again. Arroyo's spot due up second. And the Reds are down by a pair. You can test your Reds knowledge and win some great prizes. You could be featured on Reds Live after an upcoming game on Fox Sports Ohio. So why not be part of the fun? Friday at 6 at the Holy Grail on the Banks. Those little guys are looking for a Reds rally here in the bottom half of the 5th inning. They're down 4-2 to the Atlanta Braves. Arroyo is standing in the on-deck circle. Derek Robinson to lead things off. Looks at a breaking ball showing bunt. Robinson singled into right field his only time up. Reds had Hoover and Simon throwing in a bullpen, and Hoover has since taken a seat. And Alfredo down there cranking it up. Arroyo knocking on the door of 100 pitches through 5. You're down by 2. And certainly in the back of Dusty Baker's mind, I mean, unlike the last 3 days in Chicago where you were facing a bullpen suspect at best, Dusty knows as well as anybody out there that, well, this Atlanta Braves team, by and large, not every night is a bullpen perfect. We know that. But this is among the better bullpens in all of baseball.
Well, it could mean, though, that if Derek Robinson gets on, that Bronson Arroyo buys himself another inning to stay in the ball game. You send Arroyo up the butt rather than burn another player to do that. You save your bullpen maybe an inning if Arroyo can get out there and give you one more.
course, Alfredo's down there saying, you guys have been searching for me out at sea for the better part of a week and a half. He has not pitched in a game since Saturday, April the 27th. That was the opening series of that last road trip in D.C.
Well, Simon's really taken over the spot vacated by Manny Parra, being the 12th pitcher on the team. You're the 7th reliever. You're the mop-up guy. The Reds, remember, played tight ball games in St. Louis. And those are not the kind of games that normally a long reliever gets in. They didn't need him necessarily in the series. And all of a sudden, when you're a long reliever, those days can turn into a week before you know it. That's one tough thing about being in that spot, because you don't know when to get your throwing in. When is enough? When is too much? You may get your throwing in at 4 o'clock one afternoon and then be in the game in the second inning.
2-2 the count on Derek Robinson leading off the Cincinnati 5th. Good eye right there by Robinson on a close pitch. Robinson trying to get it started. Leadoff man here in the bottom of the 5th inning, down by a pair. And he is walked.
Boy, that's a good at bat.
Sure was.
Now you can see the way that Derek Robinson took those pitches. I mean, he just gave you the impression that he was seeing the ball pretty well coming out of Mahalam's hand. He wasn't going to chase anything. So this gives Bronson Arroyo a chance maybe to get a bunt down, obviously, and maybe to stay in the ball game here. Reds score a couple of runs. He picks up a W, or at least puts himself in line for one.
Of course, Simon is down there and still standing atop the mound. Just because Arroyo is batting here does not mean he will remain in the game to pitch, like Chris brought up. Rather than burning a player sitting on your bench, maybe you just use Arroyo here to advance a runner with a bunt, which he will do. And in the dirt, picked out of there nicely by Uggla. So a pair of sacrifices tonight for Arroyo. And Robinson on to second base.
Well, look how close he keeps his head to the bat. Arroyo does. He keeps his eyes on the ball. He lays it down very nicely. Love that Exmo look. This time brought to you by Munchin's Furniture.
So now Chu is struck out looking on a 3-2 pitch into first and lined out softly to the shortstop, ending the third. Robinson a very short lead out there at second base. Breaking ball away. Here's that play you were talking about, which caused that fat lift from yesterday.
Brandon Phillips goes out. Chu comes in. It's a pop-up off the bat of Alfonso Soriano. Goes off the glove of Brandon Phillips and then right off the lips of Shin-Soo Choo. He's already got a fat lip out there, but both of them stayed in the ball game. Reds completed the sweep.
Phillips would eventually leave the game. Some blurred vision, and told everybody don't worry about it. I'll be out there the next day, and he is in the lineup. That pitch really fooled Chu there. Fastball in, funny swing, and Mahalam ahead of Shin-Soo at 1 ball 2 strikes. Tried that fastball in and too far in. Of course, Chu knows a thing or two about getting hit by pitches. That's 11 of them. By far and away the league leader in that category.
Now, he knows a little bit about getting hit by pitch. He had 14 of them last year. The high water mark for Chu was back in 2009 when he was a member of the Cleveland Indians, and he was being 17 times. That is 66 times in his major league career.
So now Kozar, big chance for Zach here. He struck out his first time up, but started a 2-run rally with a leadoff single to left center and scored in the fourth. Robinson a walk to begin the inning. A bunt got him to second base, and now Chu hit with a 2-2 pitch. And in there, a strike to even things up on Zach Kozar.
If I'm not mistaken, a matchup here of a Mississippi State Bulldog on the mound and a Ole Miss Rebel at the plate.
I have no doubt the Cowboy is watching back home at Mississippi tonight. But he would be pulling for the Ole Miss Rebel in this at bat.
I have no doubt you called that right.
Goes right behind, and 1 ball and 2 strikes. Out of play.
Mahalam is what scouts call having a fast arm, not because he throws especially hard. I don't even think he's touched 90 miles an hour tonight, but when he gets that arm out of his glove, it goes very quickly right back up behind his left ear. And a lot of that is where some of his deception comes.
2-1, 1 out, and it's taken outside. 2-2 to count. Kozar waits at 2-2. Got him swinging. 2 outs in the inning.
Talked a little bit about Paul Mahalam's delivery over the years. He's really refined it. He's simplified it quite a bit. He just tucks that leg. He's not nearly as far across his body as he used to be. And that's just a good, solid delivery of a guy that has learned how to pitch in the major leagues. Keep his head still. And command his breaking ball.
Votto started. Did not pull the trigger. Ball 1. 5 strikeouts in the game now for Mahalam. Twice he's taken care of Kozar. Votto is lined out to left, walked and scored a run. Tying run at first base. And Votto the go-ahead run at the plate with 2 away. Ball 2. Be the 47th pitch over the last 2 innings for Paul Mahalam. He gave up 2 runs in the 4th. Reds with a scoring chance in the 5th. Votto on a 2-0 count fouls it off to the third base side on a fastball from Mahalam.
Usually you don't see a swing like that out of Joey until he has 2 strikes on him. Played on the fastball ahead of the breaking ball. Mahalam, you might say he's got him where he wants him, but you never know that with Joey Votto. Guy's a line drive waiting to happen.
2 on, 2 out. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Votto. Cut off by Johnson, and the inning is over. So they retire Votto, stranding 2 to end the inning. And we go to the 6th. The 2-1 Atlanta lead. Tonight, they have scored in all but 1 inning. A home run by Simmons, followed the RBI single by Freeman. 2-0 ball game, went to 3-0 on the run scoring single by Simmons in the 4th. Reds got 2 of them back, had a chance to tie the game, but left the tying run at 3rd with only 1 out of the inning. RBIs by Phillips and Bruce. And then Gaddis with a double into left center field against Arroyo in the 5th inning, pushing the lead to where it is right now at the end of 5. 4 runs, 8 hits for Atlanta. Rays have left 6 men on base. Reds 2 runs, only 3 base hits against Paul Mahala. 1 error, and the Reds have left 4. And now Alfredo Simon takes over for Bronson Arroyo.
Well, Alfredo only pitched 1 time on that 10-game road trip that the Reds just came off of. That was in Washington. One of the Reds' losses there on the 27th. But before that, he pitched seemingly every day in a row. When the Miami Marlins were in town, and then the Chicago Cubs, he pitched 4 days in a row between the 20th and the 23rd of the month of April. So feast or famine when you're a long reliever like Alfredo Simon, at least as far as appearances go.
Simmons 2 for 2, a home run and a bouncer through the left side against a drawn-in infield to drive in a run in the 4th inning. Mahalam in the on-deck circle, and then it'll be B.J. Upton. Breaking ball, he started to and was able to check his swing. 2-2 on Simmons. Well, that's a pretty good pitch right there. Fastball diving down and into the right-handed batter with some hair on it at 93.
Oh, there's no question he's got good stuff. I mean, he's a big guy, 6 feet 6 inches tall, and I mean, he just stays right on top of that fastball, drives it down and in.
Boy, that's a good pitch, isn't it? Mahalam 0 for 2. Reached on a fielder's choice throwing error. Back in the 4th inning. Many times already this year we have seen the Reds rally and rally late here on the home front. As there's strike 3 called on the hook this time to Mahalam. 2 away.
1, 2, 3 both on strikeouts here for Alfredo Simon. It is a strikeout that we're talking about right here in our head and shoulders whiff of Old Spice. Not once, not twice, but 3 times B.J. Upton went down via the strikeout. A curveball, a changeup. A down inside fastball right there. No slider. Head and shoulders whiff of Old Spice.
So here is the aforementioned Mr. B.J. Upton.
You know, if you watch his hands, he's trying to stay inside the ball. Upton is, but he's got so much bat movement as the ball is arriving that he never starts to swing really from the same spot. You watch a really good hitter, and at some point they get that bat back there and they stop it. But his is always in motion, so you're not really sure where that bat head is when he begins his swing. And he'll run into his share of fastballs or breaking balls for home runs. There's no doubt about it. And he's not going to be hitting 150 for the rest of the year. Right now he is scuffling.
Simon trying to put him away. A 2-2 pitch with 2 down and nobody on. And it's a little bit low. Just blew him away. 94-mile-per-hour fastball. Upton 4 at bats, 4 strikeouts. Reds are down by 2. Lions coverage right along with you. It's called MLB.TV, celebrating 11 years Visit Reds.com to order and get more details. MLB.tv is baseball everywhere. All right, here we go. Reds down 2. They bat in the bottom of the 6th inning. It'll be Brandon Phillips, Jay Bruce, Todd Frazier. Reds only 3 base hits, although Mahalam has thrown a pile of pitches over the last 2 innings. Almost 50 of them. Now the Reds have at least put some people on the last couple of innings, and of course 2 innings ago they scored their only 2 runs of the game. Phillips knocked in the first one with a double to left field. A few bodies at least beginning to start moving around out in that Atlanta bullpen. Guys stretching out a little bit, and now it looks like they're going to go ahead and have a seat. Nobody getting warmed up, at least not yet.
You know, one thing we know about Brandon Phillips is that he really ratchets up his game when he plays against the St. Louis Cardinals. Of course, especially since that incident the Reds had a few years ago. But he's from Atlanta, and look at the numbers he's put up in 47 games. The batting average not that great, but 7 home runs, and he's done some damage. 28 runs batted in. He knows a lot of his friends and family from back in Atlanta are watching him when he gets on the tube wearing a Reds uniform, and he wants to represent.
Mahalam ready, and now the 0-2 on Brandon, and it's taken down low. Of course, the big 2 guns out of that Atlanta bullpen. Eric O'Flaherty and of course their closer Craig Kimbrell. Well, a lot of problems here after getting ahead of Phillips. 0-2 between McCann and Mahalam. And if you're just joining us, McCann has not played a game this year, although he has obviously caught Mahalam going back to last season. Well, these 2 teams had a wild 4-game series here at Great American Ballpark last year. Tapper to short. 1 out. Reds swept that 4-game series, you may remember. And that was a record-setting homestand for the Reds. They played 7 games on it, hit 17 home runs, 10 of them against the Braves. Game 1, Leak, Stubbs, Kozart, back to back to back. Game 2, Phillips, a 2-run home run in the first. Latos wore him out. 7 innings of 2-run baseball. Frazier in game 3. That was back at the end of May last year. It's when Frazier was getting a chance to fill in for the injured Todd Rowland. Hit a game-ending home run to right center field. And then the next day, the Reds went for the 4-game sweep at Mesoraco. His first career grand slam. Reds hit 10 home runs in the 4-game series. First time the Reds had swept the Braves in a 4-game set in Cincinnati since 1980. And there's our buddy Jim Day sweeping the Braves out of town.
The Nimbus 2012.
He's got that down.
I know it never gets old.
No, it doesn't. In that series, the Reds scored the 16 runs. 14 of the 16 runs came via the home run ball. And Freddie Gonzalez said after the game, you know, a lot of folks in the the cover the Braves and the Atlanta media walking out of here saying, oh, the ballpark's a joke and hitter friendly ballpark. And Freddie Gonzalez apparently looked at a lot of those same folks who said that, and he said, well, guys, the last time I checked, our guys had to hit in this ballpark too. And in that series, the Braves scored 1 run in the first game, 3 in the second game, 1 run in the third game, and could do next to nothing. Looked like that pitch may have been ball 4, but Bruce protecting the plate on a 2-strike count, fouls it out of play. Two once more to Jay Bruce. He's fouled away the last 2. Bruce has struck out for the second time tonight. After every Reds game, Fox Sports Ohio will break it down with Reds Alive, brought to you by Kings Honda in the Kings Auto Mall. Visit KingsHondaUSA.com. First 2 retired by Mahalam here in the 6th, and now Todd Frazier. And there's a base hit into left field. Gaddis over to cut it off, bobbles it, and Frazier will go to second base. Be a single and an error.
Well, Evan Gaddis has done most of the catching in the absence of Brian McCann. He's in left field tonight. He's played left field some in the minor leagues, and then again a little bit down in winter ball this year in Venezuela. He comes over and just simply bobbles that ball and comes off the heel of his glove, and Frazier takes advantage, and that will be all for Paul Mahalam.
This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. They have the right-hander Corey Guerin loosening up a moment ago. And it will at second and 2 men out, gives way to Corey Guerin. He pitched in 22 games last year with Atlanta, 18 the year before. And Devin Mesoraco swung at the first pitch 1.5 feet off the outside corner.
Well, you can see from the arm angle that Corey Guerin very tough on right-handers. He drops down around sidearm, comes from down almost around Laredo. He's had a pretty good run of it so far. 17 games, a 1.3 earned run average.
Two now to Mesoraco. Late off that one.
Well, from home plate, here's what he looks like. Now we're getting an advantage of not having to stand in the right-handed batter's box, but you can see where he drops sidearm. Everything he has thrown to Mesoraco has been a slider breaking away from him.
Well, after chasing the first two out there, he figured why not go out there twice more, and Devin able to lay off. Derek Robinson waits in the on-deck circle, a switch hitter.
Yeah, the really odd thing about Corey Guerin is you take a look at the bullpen's leaders in the league, and the Braves are atop the leaderboard. He's actually more effective this year, Guerin is, against left-handers and right-handers. He has not given up a hit yet in 14 at-bats against the lefty.
That one gets away from McCann, and on to third base goes Frazier. Well, you know, just watching this at bat, and we've not seen much of this guy, Chris.
Well, I actually got to know Corey a little bit down in a golf tournament in Chattanooga. He's from Chattanooga. He plays in the Rick Honeycutt tournament for the benefit of a lot of the kids down in the Chattanooga area. Your good old buddy Tom Browning drags me down there every year, and I got paired up with Corey one day, and what a nice kid.
Well, he's been not near the strike zone in this at bat to Mesoraco.
He has not
until now. Fastball right down the middle on a 3-2 pitch, and the inning is over. Took the Fan Express to Reds country right here to Great American Ballpark. How are you going to beat it? Fox Sports Ohio and the Reds would like to thank Reds fans who have been a part of this great program. Come early, come often next year, and get on that thing. You know, I got a note from our good friend Bill Cunningham over at 700 WLW Radio. While you guys were out of town, Chris, one of the greatest high school baseball players in the history of Cincinnati, and one of the greatest high school baseball players in the history of Ohio.
Bill Cunningham
Broke 2 major records while you guys were out of town.
Oh, really?
Andrew Benintendi from Madeira High School.
He's the real deal, I hear.
He became the all-time Ohio high school record breaker now in runs scored, and the Ohio high school record setter in base hits in a career.
Right.
And so in the first game back, from all of us at Fox Sports Ohio and from the Reds, Andrew Benintendi from Madeira High School, congratulations. This guy is some kind of player.
Congratulations indeed. There's not a scout around that does not know his name, or a scout in this area that is not already out to see him play. I have heard lots and lots of good things about him.
He is something else.
That must be number 11.
That it is.
They're urging Alfredo Simon on, and with that strikeout of Chris Johnson, 11 punch outs, means it's a pizza night for everybody at the ballpark.
Indeed it is once again. Of course, the Reds went, 6 games in a row where they struck out 10 or more batters this year. Oh, and 2 to Justin Upton. By the way, to tie a ribbon around, you were talking about Benintendi, who's undoubtedly going to be drafted. Where? I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. But he's already committed collegially to play at the University of Arkansas. Considered to be among the top high school players in all of the country. One and 2 to count. Got him swinging. Reds fans, you can buy your tickets today to see the Reds and the Brewers this Friday night. We've got the big fireworks show presented by Tri-State Chevy dealers after the game. Call 513-381-REDS for tickets. You can visit select Kroger locations. You can always log on to reds.com/tickets. Big series with the Brewers in town. Of course, it's a huge weekend giveaway wise. We've got the fireworks on Friday. Aroldis Chapman bobblehead on Saturday. Family days on Sunday. Great value. Come on down to the ballpark. One to Freddie Freeman.
Is Alfredo Simon dealing or what?
Yes.
I mean, you give him what, about 8 days off, and he comes out here and he has struck out every batter he has faced, all 5 of them.
Apparently he's not gotten rusty down there in the ballpark.
I guess not. That wisdom Porky's been talking about has rubbed off on him.
Porky Lopez, the Reds bullpen coach. He has a couple of kids playing. Well, one in professional baseball, right in the minor leagues, and then a daughter that's a big-time softball player, correct?
You're right about that. I'm not sure where his daughter plays. I think maybe Florida.
Yeah, I want to say Central Florida or something like that.
And his son is playing in the minor leagues, I think in the Midwest League, for a minor league affiliate of the Kansas City Royals.
Yes. 1 and 2 to Freeman. How about Alfredo? Did he go? Sure he did. Alfredo Simon faces 6 batters over the last 2 innings, and fans all 6. We go to the bottom of the 7th. Reds down 2. Release part of it. Bring mom and cheer on your Redlegs. They take on the Brewers this Sunday. Talked about giveaways this weekend. The first 10,000 moms get a Reds Mother's Day tote bag thanks to Biz and Oxidol. And make sure you take advantage of that Reach Magazine Sunday Family Day ticket offer. 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or visit reds.com. Cesar is Turris will lead things off batting for Derek Robinson. Here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Robinson's had a good night at the plate, both of them coming from the right side of the plate. He singled and drawn a walk. Almost makes you wonder if he's had the oblique situation where batting right-handed, according to Derek, did not bother him as much as it did when he was swinging the bat from the left side. So as Turris takes a 2-0 pitch in there for a strike, Guerin came on to replace Mahalan in the 6th inning. And he struck out Mesoraco with a runner at third. And a roller to the right side. Easy play. 1 out. Well, you were talking about big Alfredo Simon. Why not make him our John Morrell hot dog player of the game?
Why not? Not 1, not 2. How about 6 strikeouts? He faced 6 batters. All of them went down either swinging. Well, they all went down swinging. None of them looking. Of course, he got the biggest cheer when he struck out Chris Johnson to start off the 7th inning. That was the 11th strikeout of the game. But overall, 6 for 6 for Simon.
Well, you got to believe we're going to see a left-hander with all these left-handers coming up in the Reds batting order. Donald Lutz has already been announced as a pinch hitter. You have Chu next, Cozart, then the lefty Votto. So Guerin faces 2 batters, retires them both. And the left-hander Luis Avilan will come on from the Atlanta bullpen to face Lutz. Reds are down 2. We're in the 7th. We'll be back in a moment. We're on the mound. Base is empty. 1 out. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. And you see, pretty much like the rest of this Atlanta bullpen, pretty good numbers. Although, look at the note on the bottom. In just 10 1/3 innings, he has walked 6 batters.
Yeah, he can do that, but he can also get it up there in a hurry. Tops out about 94 miles an hour with a curveball.
Well, the Braves recipe pretty simple. Told you earlier, their high-octane bullpen, and there are a lot of good guys down there, don't get me wrong, but if they have to draw it up, O'Flaherty and Kimbrel are the two primary weapons down in that bullpen. 0-2. Quite a day for Lutz in Chicago yesterday. He had his first major league hit, knocked in his first major league run, and stole his first major league base.
And it also almost all never happened. He was actually hit by a pitch in that same at bat. Greg Gibson, the umpire, missed the call. Lutz came back later in the at bat to finally get a base hit and drive a run in and also steal a base. He goes down swinging right there.
Well, here we are to recap it.
This was after the ball that brushed off the top of his foot. He ends up lining it in the center field. Drives a run in on that. There's a base hit right there, and he ends up driving Todd Frazier in. So they saved the baseball, and he gets a lot of congrats in the dugout. Now he's big enough, Donald Lutz is. So you got to be careful how quickly he would jump up and stand up in that Wrigley Field dugout.
Yes.
Put a knot on his head. A little more room here at Great American Ballpark.
Although it can happen. You get up too quick when you're his size. So now Chu, 0 for 2, has been hit by a pitch. 2 down, nobody on.
Well,
1-1.
Talked about the formula that the Braves bring, and that formula, of course, is a good bullpen. But what they have down there, other than really Corey Guerin, is power arms. Guerin gives you that unusual windup and that weird delivery from the sidearm, and it tends to freeze a lot of right-handers. But this kid throws very hard. Anthony Barbaro brings it up there even harder than this guy. He tops out about 96. Of course, Craig Kimbrel wastes no time getting into the plate as well.
2-1 the count. And we're on the outside corner to even things up. Cozart waiting in the on-deck circle. Chu trying to keep the inning alive and bring the tying run, potential tying run, to the plate. Reds down a pair, batting in the 7th inning. And Cozart will bat. After the walk to Chu. And even on a night where Chu does not have a base hit, he has been on base a couple of times at the top of that Reds order.
Roger McDowell's the Braves pitching coach. Comes out there to try to settle his left-hander down. You got to figure that they're going to leave him in just in the event that he loses Cozart. You've still got Joey Votto, a left-hander, back behind him.
Of course, Roger McDowell, the pride of Coleraine High School. Had a mighty fine major league career.
Boy, he had some kind of sinking fastball.
What year did you graduate from St. X?
73.
73. So you're right there in the late 70s. I think maybe in back-to-back classes is where you had Scott Moneyhoff out of Purcell, #1 pick by Philadelphia. Rich Dotson out of Anderson, #1 pick by the White Sox.
You had Pat Tabler
out of McNick.
Right.
Wow.
Not good.
Not good at all. With a tying run at the plate, and Chu falls asleep. Haven't seen that much this year out of the Reds, but it happens here to end the 7th inning. So off we go to the 8th. Atlanta 4, Cincinnati 2. Cincinnati Children's Hospital ranking 3rd in the nation on the U.S. News and World Report's 2012 honor roll for best children's hospitals in America. And by Chevy. Visit your Tri-State Chevy dealer today for great pricing on a brand new 2013 Chevy. 4-2 Atlanta as we go to the 8th. We're talking about great baseball players out of Ohio. What about great football players out of the greater Cincinnati area? One of the all-time greats. Throwing out his first pitch to his brother. Going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this summer is the great Chris Carter.
Oh, what a career.
Out of Middletown High School. And, of course, his brother Butch Carter, great basketball player. Went on to star at Indiana. And they threw out the first pitch on Middletown night here tonight.
Not only Middletown night tonight, it's also the first of 4 Kid Glove nights tonight. Great speech before the game by Paul Kramer, Executive Director of the Howard Crosley Jr. Amateur Baseball Fund, doing a lot of good for youth baseball and softball in the area.
Now taking over on the mound following the extraordinary work of Alfredo Simon. 6 batters, all retired, all on strikeouts. Is right-hander Logan Andrusik. So Lutz remains in the game to play left field. Gaddis, McCann, Udler. Rays have lived up to their reputation tonight. They've struck out 13 times. But the bottom line is they have found a way to score 4 runs.
Tom, I get a very small correction to make of you. You know, the kid of you, the young man from Madeira.
Yes.
Benintendi, is it?
Benintendi.
Benintendi?
Yeah.
His scholarship to Arkansas is actually for basketball.
Oh, I thought it was also baseball. I beg your pardon. Okay. I knew he was a great basketball player, too. Well, he was just recently named, what was it, the Enquirer Division III, I think Madeira played in this year. High school basketball player of the year. Averaged almost 30 points a game, and people who saw him play said you can't believe how good he is in basketball, but most of the folks that are watching him play baseball feel like that's the game.
That's what I hear about him. And while we're correcting people, I'm going to correct myself for something I was speaking with Jim Kelch about on the air yesterday about if a batted ball hits an umpire. A gentleman who's a high school umpire called these Fox offices in Cleveland and said, you know what, Chris Welsh was wrong about that. And what I said yesterday is if a batted ball hit an umpire when he's on the field, the ball remains in play. And that's only part wrong, part right, part wrong. He brought up a rule 509F that says if a ball touches an umpire working the infield after it bounded over the mound and hits the umpire, the ball is dead. I said it was alive. But there's another rule in here that says if it passes an infielder and then hits an umpire, the ball stays alive. And that would be 609D.
Well, that would be like where the second base umpire is right now. Once it passes an infielder, and the second base umpire right now is standing behind Brandon Phillips, right?
So if it hits him after it goes by Phillips, the ball would stay alive. If he was in because there was a runner at first base and then right behind the mound and the ball hit him, then the ball would be dead.
All right.
Wanted to correct that. Thank you for the phone call. We try to get it right. I don't know all the rules, that's for sure.
Well, you're pretty good on them. You're pretty good. Oh, you're better than pretty good. You're real good on it.
We got to know them in order to break them. That's what I would say.
2 down in the inning. You know, while we have a quick second, I heard you and Jim Kelch the other day when you guys talked about that situation involving Jack Morris. I am just stunned by all of that. That is one of the most fascinating stories from a baseball standpoint,
now the fill you in
that I
on
have
that.
heard in a long time.
Evidently, Jack Morris, who's a color commentator for the Toronto Blue
Yes.
Jays, saw Clay Buchholz pitch for the Red Sox
Against Toronto.
And said, this guy's throwing a spitter.
Base hit into center field by Ugly. On the air.
On the air.
Right. Just comes right out and says it. Apparently he had been looking, I guess they said, at video of Buchholz and saw some of the same tendencies that he had seen on video before that start, and just threw it out there right on the air. And apparently the next day went up to both of the Boston Red Sox catchers and said, hey, I know your guy is doctoring the baseball. I'm thinking to myself, I have never heard of such a thing.
Well, you know, I never really got to know Jack Morris very well when he played, but I did get to hear him speak this winter when he visited Cincinnati and spoke up at the Green Diamond. And this guy is a straight shooter. I mean, he holds nothing back. And I can see, not a lot of guys that do that, but I can see Morris do that.
Well, you better have a resume to be able to do something like that.
Well, he's got a resume.
He does have a resume. And now that guy's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You know, hard to understand. Of course, this summer, not a single player is going into the Hall of Fame. Not one.
Let's not get started on that.
1-0 on Simmons. I just wanted to bring that up because I have not seen you since all of that went down, and I heard very briefly. I walked in on it a little bit late when you and Jimmy were just winding it up. Type conversation.
In order for me to do something like that, I would have to have irrefutable proof.
Well, Mr. Morris must feel like he has it.
I'm sure he does. Maybe he knows a little more about the spitball that he's letting on.
Swung on and fouled back out of play. Reds are down 4-2 here in the 8th inning. Former Red Juan Francisco stands in the on-deck circle. He'd been bothered by a tender ankle that he rolled over a couple of days ago, and they figure he may not be ready to get back in the lineup. He would, of course, been in there tonight for Johnson against a right-hander Arroyo. Oh, it's a big one here. In left field, and that is a backbreaker there. Andrelton Simmons, his second home run of the game. He's knocked in 4 runs. And that is a huge home run. 4-2 has become 6-2.
Andrelton Simmons made the ball club this year out of spring training because of his defense. You never know that by the way he's hit the ball so far this year. Came into the ball game with 2 home runs. He's added 2 more. And both of them on pitches that are up in the zone.
Man, is that a killer. Jordan Schaefer going to bat for the pitcher who works 2/3 of an inning with a strikeout and a walk. Schaefer, of course, one time among the most prized prospects in the Atlanta organization. Reached the major leagues when he was 20 years old. And although blessed with unbelievable talent, he just could not get it together. They felt like he was still going to be a good player, but they had to give up something to get something. They traded him to get Michael Bourne. And I mean, things went from bad to worse for Schaefer in Houston. They didn't want him anymore, and when he became available, Atlanta decided to gobble him back up. So here he is at the tender age of 26 years old. Grew up in Hammond, Indiana, and hoping that he can resurrect what was a very promising major league career. 2-1. Atlanta has scored in 5 of their 8 innings here tonight. 2-2 delivery. Full count. Andrusik easily retired the first 2 batters in this inning. Then allowed a single to Uggla. And a big 2-run home run by Simmons. 2-run lead goes to 4. This one in the air to deep right, and the Braves have gone back to back.
Wow.
We talked about the Reds with a team that hit 10 home runs in a 4-game series against Atlanta last year here at Great American Ballpark, and now the Braves are flexing their muscles.
You did expect the Braves to hit some home runs in this series sometime, but you really didn't expect it to come out of the number 8 hitter. 2 of them tonight out of Simmons and a pinch hitter, Jordan Schaefer. I mean, how with all the other names in this lineup like Justin Upton and Freddie Freeman, Brian McCann. Schaefer gets a whole bunch of this one.
A 2-run lead has gone to 5 in the blink of an eye. Well, now B.J. Upton, who has struck out each of his 4 times tonight. And he's behind here 1-2. Whoa. 2-2 the count on B.J. Upton. And now full count Jordan Walden. He is now throwing in the Atlanta pen.
If you're B.J. Upton, you got to be thinking about striking out 5 times. I mean, is that a short list or a long list of players that have struck out 5 times?
Can't be long. I mean, when you consider the number of games. Drew a walk. I think the better question is, how do you walk a guy who struck out 4 times?
That is a better question.
And probably a question that Brian Price is asking as he wants to slow down this unbelievable momentum swing to the Braves. Just a moment ago, there were 2 down in the inning with nobody on. Single by Uggla, you thought no big deal. Home run by Simmons, home run by Schaefer, walk to B.J. Upton. Well, every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, we invite you to join us for a look back on the previous week of Reds action with Reds Weekly. Jim Day, Jeff Pecoro, Jim Kelch review all the best from last week. Great features you won't see anywhere else. Reds Weekly, Wednesdays at 6. Brought to you by Safe Auto. Drive safe. Spend less. To a pitch. Nice pickup there by Frazier. But a 3-run Atlanta 8th. And it's a 5-run Braves lead. drives of the game. Down in that number 8 spot, Andrelton Simmons had 2 home runs and 11 runs batted in coming into the game tonight. Well, he now has 4 home runs and 15 runs batted in. Turn our attention the other way to the Reds, who have only managed 4 base hits. Our Subway Cincinnati Reds in-game box score: Cozart, Phillips, Frazier, Robinson. The only 4 hits. Couple of changes for the Atlanta Braves. Schaefer, after the pinch hit home run, stays in left field to replace Gaddis. And now Jordan Walden takes over out of the bullpen.
Yeah, Jordan Walden was one time a closer for the Angels. A couple of years ago, he got traded over here from the Angels last November in exchange for Tommy Hanson. But this guy has had a fastball clocked up around 100 miles an hour. I mean, the Braves are one of those teams that when they go to the bullpen, they want to see some heat.
Milo to follow, and then Brandon Phillips. Cozart a single and 3 at bats, scored back in the 4th inning. And a second hit tonight for Cozart. This will be a double to begin the bottom of the 8th inning.
Well, he got a breaking ball, Zach Cozart did. He got way out in front of it right there, and right down the line it goes. Second base hit of the night. He scored the first Reds run in the 4th after he singled the left field. He really jumps at you, Walden does. Made the All-Star team a couple of years ago, and Mariano Rivera came down with an injury.
Two and one to Votto. Ball hit hard down the left field line, and Schaefer's not going to get it. That'll be an RBI double by Joey Votto, played in Cozart. It's a 7-3 game. And I mean, no sooner did that ball leave the bat, bodies begin to scurry around that Atlanta bullpen.
Votto just insides out this ball, and somehow it stays fair. He's got some action on it. He's slicing away Jordan Schaefer, who was put in for defense. He can really scoot, but he was unable to come up with it, and that ball bounces into the corner. Votto ends up on second, trading places with Cozart.
So now it'll be Brandon Phillips. Ball one. Well, left-hander Eric O'Flaherty getting ready down in the bullpen. Well, the easiest thing in the world would be to say, boy, what about those 3 runs? How big are they now? Well, of course, Walden would not be in this game. If this was still a 2-run game, not to say you couldn't get back-to-back doubles against O'Flaherty. It happens to even the best relievers.
Well, the way that Freddie Gonzalez has managed it mostly of the time this year, they use Walden normally in the 7th inning. And then O'Flaherty in the 8th, and they close, of course, with Craig Kimbrell.
So now Brandon Phillips on a 2-0 count. Loops one into shallow right field. That'll fall into him. Votto had to make sure that ball wasn't caught by Upton. So double, single to begin this inning against Walden. And Freddie Gonzalez has his left-hander in the bullpen, and he's going to use him to face Jay Bruce. Trying to squelch this would-be Cincinnati rally right now. So we will take a break in the action. Walden does not retire a batter. Reds are down by 4 with 2 on and nobody out. O'Flaherty on his way. We'll be back. On the corners with nobody out. And now the left-hander Eric O'Flaherty will take over on the mound. Runners at first and third to face left-handed batting Jay Bruce.
Now this matchup has happened 4 other times before. You see the numbers on O'Flaherty. He's not an easy guy to hit. 8 punch outs, 4 walks, low earned run average, very low opponent batting average. He's a guy that is very tough on lefties. Fastball, slider, changeup. For Bruce, his fastball, slider.
And Bruce trying to jump on a first pitch from O'Flaherty, fouls it off. Well, for the first time all night tonight, a very light rain begins to fall. Bruce just like that behind 0-2.
He's got to be thinking in the back of his head. He's 0-2. He's seen 2 fastballs, and he has yet to see that big breaking ball that O'Flaherty likes to fire up there to lefties.
See the numbers right there. Mighty impressive against the lefties. Under 100. Of course, when Johnny Venters came up, young man who was born in Pikeville, Kentucky, and that unbelievable 2010 year, and again in 2011, popped up. Short left. You're not even going to take a chance when you're down by 4.
It looks bad, though, when you don't take a chance and they throw the ball to second base.
Yep.
I mean, you're down by 4 runs, and it really doesn't make any difference in the big picture. Not a bad pitch. That was a slider finally from O'Flaherty. He puts it down in a pretty good spot, and Bruce just pops it up the left.
So now Frazier with runners on the corners and 1 out. Well, Reds need to start putting together some hits if they want to get back in this thing, and that one dribbled foul. Tapper down to third. And a nice play made by Johnson. Run scores, making it a 7-4 ball game. Phillips advances on to second base, but the Braves will make that trade-off all day, every day.
Yeah, when they've got a 4-run lead like they had before that ground ball, you're looking for outs at this point in the ball game. Flaherty originally came up to the major leagues with the Seattle Mariners, and he pitched so poorly back in 2008. They sent him down to the minor leagues, and the Braves picked him up on waivers the following, or that later in that winter in November. And then by the time 2011 rolled around, he was a big part of that Braves bullpen.
One and one to Devin Mesoraco. Xavier Paul stands in the on-deck circle. The only right-handed batter on the Reds bench is Corky Miller. Three and one now to Mesoraco. Well, if Mesoraco can reach, you at least give you a chance to tie it with one big swing of the bat. 3-1 to Devin. Bat littered all over the infield on a one-hopper to third, and that'll end the inning. Reds get 2, but they're 3 short. Miller Time moment is brought to you by Miller Lite. Today, the birthday of Willie Mays. Still alive and doing well, living in the Bay Area. And of course, who could forget that blast off the bat of Vic Ward's game, one of the 1954 World Series. The Say Hey Kid. Happy birthday, Willie Mays. '82 years young. And, you know, Chris, for a lot of folks out there that are in their, you know, maybe 60s, 70s, I'm sure they cannot believe that Willie Mays is 82 years old.
You're right.
You know what I mean? It happens to all of us if you're fortunate enough. Happens to all of us as J.J. Hoover comes on to pitch a ninth inning. And what I mean by that is that if you grow up baseball fan, all of us did. And I mean, for a guy now like, say, Pete Rose, and one day it's going to be a guy like Joey Votto. Joey Votto turns 70 years old, you know, and you're like, you gotta be kidding. For a kid right now growing up. And so for a lot of people that grew up watching baseball in the 50s and 60s, to imagine that Willie Mays is 82 years old has got to be hard to believe.
Hey, you know, you think back and you think of Willie Mays in your mind, and you think of that shot we just showed. That play, the catch.
Atlanta leading 7-4. And we're in the top of the ninth inning. Boy, J.J. Hoover coming back in here tonight after throwing 28 pitches in the game just yesterday. And getting another save. He had to bail out Aroldis Chapman, you may remember, on Friday.
And he had 2 saves in 3 days. And then pitched a third of an inning to bail out Chapman through only 4 pitches, through 28 pitches yesterday. And he walks the first batter out there. You know, that Dusty Baker didn't want to use him. You're really out of pitchers down there unless you're going to go to Marshall, Chapman, or Broxton. Send in LeCure again, I guess. But he's pretty durable, at least it has been so far, Hoover.
And after a very slow start to this year, we know about, you know, roughly his first handful of outings for Hoover. Ever since then, he has been lights out. And light rain continuing to fall here at the ballpark. Just started a half inning ago. That one shot into right center field. Bruce a good jump on it to bring it in. Hoover has not allowed a run in any of his last 9 appearances spanning 9 innings. And in his last 10 2/3, he's only given up 1 run. So after a shaky start, he has been as advertised out of that Reds bullpen. And of course, he's pitching against a team that traded him to the Reds here tonight in the Juan Francisco deal. Atlanta has its closer getting loose naturally with a 3-1 lead here in the 9th inning. Craig Kimbrell. Hard throwing right-hander. Not invincible, but among the best. I mean, his year last year was right there neck and neck with the year put together by Aroldis Chapman. 2 top closers in the National League from a year ago. Ramiro Pena, the pinch hitter. 1 ball and 1 strike. Pena batting for the pitcher. That was part of the double switch after Schaefer came on and had the pinch hit home run in the number 9 spot in the 8th inning. Stayed in the game. Pitcher spot went to the 5 hole. One and one to Pena. And there's a fastball strike call. One and two to count on Pena. Fastball swung on and fouled out of play if you're taking a peek ahead to the Reds. Bottom of the 9th inning, pitcher spot will lead it off. Then Donald Lutz, and we roll back over the top of the order to Shin-Soo Choo. Struck him out. 2 away in the inning. "15 strikeouts for Reds pitching tonight." How about that first pitch breaking ball in there to McCann?
You know, you really got to put yourself in J.J. Hoover's place right here.
Sure.
He's pitching against his old teammates. Here's a guy that he's followed throughout his minor league career. Brian McCann, he's the all-star catcher. He's probably caught him in spring training a few times before. And here he is in Major League game pitching to him. Having just been traded away last year from the Braves.
McCann tonight has walked twice, bounced out Tovado, and struck out. His first game off the disabled list. Had a good swing at that fastball that fouled it back.
Yeah, but when you're just fouling it back like that, you're just a hair off of it. You see it, it looks good, you try to get to it, and you're just a hair late. McCann looks like, when we get a good close-up of his face, they're really blinking a lot. Indicates he probably has contacts in. Remember, he had that eye problem for a while. Ended up wearing those wraparound glasses. I guess he's back to contacts now.
Straight into the air, short center. And Lutz comes over from left field to get it to retire the side. All right. Reds will bat in the bottom of the 9th. Down by 3. rally caps are on. And if the Reds are going to do it tonight, they're going to have to do it against one of the National League's very best. Right-hander Craig Kimbrell on the mound. Hard throwing right-hander.
Well, you're not kidding about that. I mean, this Braves bullpen has already shown some hard throwers on the night. Kimbrell, well, outstanding last year. 42 for 45 of saves and save opportunities. Earned run average was 1.0 last year, and he struck out at a Aroldis Chapman-like 116 batters in 62 innings. Now, he's blown a couple of saves already this year. He's 9 for 11. So he's been touched up a little bit, giving up a home run. But still a long, tough order for the Reds.
Ramiro Pena takes over at third base for Chris Johnson. So it'll be Pena, Simmons, Uggla, and Freeman third to first. Schaefer, Upton, left, center, and right. McCann, and now Kimbrell in the battery. Told you, if the Reds can find a way, these first couple of hitters to begin the inning. Then you're flipping back over to the top of the order with Chu and company. We start here in the bottom of the ninth with Xavier Paul, and he looks at ball one. Atlanta has led from the get-go, scoring in 4 of the first 5 innings against Bronson Arroyo. Reds made it a 4-2 game. 3-2 game, I beg your pardon, when they got 2 runs in the 4th inning. They had the runner tying run at third base with only 1 out and could not bring the tying run home. Atlanta, the next half inning in the 5th, scored. And then a big 3-run home run, 3 runs rather, in the 8th inning. 2-run home run by Simmons. Pinch hit home run by Schaefer. All of those runs against Logan Ondrusek. Reds got 2 of them back in the bottom of the 8th. But down 3 here in the 9th. Tough to lay off that one right there, but Paul able to do it. 2-2. Liner into left field, and it is caught. What a big play that might turn out to be by Schaefer. That ball hit right on the screws by Paul into left field. And Schaefer comes in to get it for an important first out of the inning.
Yeah, the only way you get to that ball if you're Jordan Schaefer is just get a great jump on it. Although he went sideways first, he's got enough left on it to be able to come in there and scoop it up.
Oh, that's not a catch.
Tell you what, you're right about that. Of course, we had to see it 3 times before we could determine that.
Well, that appeared to hit the grass first. So now Lutz struck out his only time up as a pinch hitter in the 7th. Reds would just love to get this inning to Joey Votto. You're down by 3. Votto, including Lutz, is 4 batters away. That ball smoked into right field. Turned around a 96-mile-per-hour fastball right there. That's what we saw during all of spring training in Arizona, it seemed like, from Lutz.
You're exactly right about that. He wouldn't be here right now if he didn't have the kind of spring that he had down in Goodyear, Arizona. He did that a lot. Dropped that bad head on a fastball and drilled it hard.
Second big league hit for Lutz, second in as many days. And now it'll be Shin-Soo Choo. Choo has struck out, line to short, been hit by a pitch, drawn a walk. Fastball in there, strike. Told you, Kimbrel not invincible. Already a pair of blown saves this year. Well, he's lucky he has a single out recorded so far in this inning. And there's a base hit into left field by Choo. So now the tying run will come to the plate in the form of Zach Cozart here in the ninth inning. And again, to repeat, based on what we saw, that first out of the inning appeared to be a ball that was short hopped into the glove of Jordan Schaefer, but it was called an out. Well, there's just a great example of putting the bat on the ball right there by Choo.
Well, one of the things that has always plagued Shin-Soo Choo is the strikeout rate. But he hasn't really shown anywhere near that this year. It looks like he's taken a new approach, hitting a lot of balls to left field. Vote of confidence by Roger McDowell. They've got nowhere else to go. Of course, the Braves not up, still up by 3.
So now Cozart, who has 2 hits in a game tonight. A single leading off the 4th, scored a run. Double leading off the 8th, scored again.
Well, now the Braves are playing very deep in the outfield to prevent a double by Cozart.
We have to worry about that. Boy, he just chewed Cozart up with that first pitch fastball. So we said they wanted to get it to Votto. Well, that they have done. Down to their final out of the game. Votto 4 home runs. 13 runs batted in, at an RBI double to left field his last time up in the 8th. Kimbrel, a long look into Brian McCann. Votto waiting, and a pitch. First pitch breaking ball, and clearly Votto was not looking for that. A check swing and a foul ball. Oh for 1 Votto against Kimbrel with a pair of walks. Votto is the tying run here in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 out. Back-to-back breaking balls to begin this at bat to Votto. Third straight breaking ball, and he's ahead 1-2. Kimbrel has not thrown a fastball in this at bat yet.
Yeah, you got to figure though that when he does throw a fastball, it's going to seem a whole lot faster to Joey Votto after seeing 3 consecutive sliders. .97 and out of the strike zone.
Kimbrel rubbing up that baseball, working on the bill of that cap, bent over at the waist, staring in for the sign. 2 on, 2 out. Reds down 3 in the 9th inning. Game over. So the Braves have won the opening game of the series. Final count of 7-4. Kimbrel the save, Mahalam the win, Arroyo the loss. Reds Live is coming up next. Jim Day and Jeff Piecoro standing by. Reds fall 7-4.